Pokemon there is.
Wow, impressive dream. Me, I refuse to lose. Pokemon Professor, here I come.
Meteor?
Amazing. I think that's...
A wishing star. They say that when one makes a wish from their heart, all's fair.
Hey, look, it's Gran.
Hi, Professor Magnolia.
You're from Professor Cerise's lab. How is the professor?
Great. I came here hoping to learn as much as possible about Dynamax.
I see. Of course, most of it is still shrouded in mystery. There's a special power that exists only here in the Galar region. But we do know that Pokemon and this special power are related. That relationship has to do with Galar particles.
Galar particles?
I'm curious to know if you've ever witnessed a Pokemon Dynamax in the wild area.
Yes, I have.
Galar particles can be seen as red light given off at special power spots. Particles are part of that light. They bring out a power that lies within Pokemon and beckons them to Dynamax.
A special power within Pokemon?
And after further research, we discovered that the wishing stars falling from the sky have within them those very same Galar particles.
You mean the meteor we just saw?
The wishing stars have a certain property that attracts and absorbs Galar particles. I had a theory one could utilize this property to control the enlargement of Pokemon. And with that in mind, I approached Chairman Rose of Macrocosmos, and we successfully developed the Dynamax Band.
That's incredible!
Okay. Ooh. Oh. Oof. I'm sorry, Joey. This is too laggy for my taste. what? I can't believe that shit fucking actually hit. Ugh. He wins the lag war. But I shall not subject anyone else to that. GG though. Yeah. He knew.
Which brings us to... Ta-da! Take it. It's a present. I whipped it up from the wishing star that just fell.
A Dynamax badge?
If you're traveling through Galar, having one is better than not, right?
Wow. Thank you so much. So, why is it that Pokemon can Dynamax only in the wild area or in stadiums?
Power spots. Pokemon is only able to Dynamax within a power spot.
Wow, that's fascinating.
There are many possibilities contained within Galar particles. In cooperation with Chairman Rhodes, I've researched the possibility of converting this power into usable energy. Now,
Wait, has something gone wrong with your research?
no. Which reminds me, you haven't forgotten your homework yet.
Alright. Here we go. Let's go. Oops. Whoops. Got him! Woo! Hey, welcome back, Cape Awesomeness. Welcome back, Awesomeness. Welcome back, Awesomeness. Back in time for some Smash. Hi, hello, hi. I have a hard time paying attention to chat while I'm in the middle of a match. Okay, that worked out well. Oh, that was a good catch. Woo. Oh my goodness! Fucking hell. Word? Yes, I am. This new character just dropped in Super Smash Brothers, and so I want to get really good with her, so I've been practicing a lot. As you can see, there's no shortage of skilled players in this game. there goes KO punch. Those are actual people. Yeah. These are people online. Like, if you notice when the game slows down like that right there, that's because somebody's lagging. Yo, he went for a jab lock there. Oh, oh, oh. There it is. Ask your parents if you can get an allowance. Save up for one. Give you some chores to do. Oh, right up in there. Oh, oh. Oh, there it is. Almost made a comeback. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, just don't use the character that, Oh, you mean like the same character? No, because then you're gonna go phew, past my progress. And it's gonna basically be you carrying me through the game, and that's not what the playthrough's about. Oh, that was a good pause. that hard. Oh, got me. Is that it? Ooh. I don't know. Maybe. I gotta just go with whatever I feel like playing. Sometimes I play Terraria less often than the other games that I play, but I have you on my friends list, so I can message you when I get on. You'll be a stream regular. Oh, reverse Uno card. Oh, that was a good. That was good. Oh, down smash is a good added shield option, I guess. Actually, now would be a good time to throw in my pants for the wash. I will be right back. Put on something for guys.
Next up, we have the mighty Aggron. First coming to light as one of the rock-solid members of Champion Steven's team back in the Ruby and Sapphire days, this steel-plated dinosaur was always an imposing figure. And honestly, I mean, how can you not be? This thing looks freaking awesome. In fact, as a kid, I would just catch a Leiron every Victory Road and then evolve it to use against the Elite Four. They kind of just made it really accessible there. But anyways, we'd like to know how well Aggron translated this burly physique into competitive success, and thus we pose the question, like we do every week, how good was Aggron actually? And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. Aggron's Generation 3 debut, unfortunately, did not have it see any major success in overuse. Aggron's got some large stats, especially its monstrous physical defense, but that didn't really do much because Rock and Steel is an absolutely awful defensive typing. You really won't do much good as a physical wall if you have a quadruple weakness to Earthquake, because that means you'll be one-hit KO'd by just about every physical attacker in advance. Being equally weak to fighting moves wasn't good either, since everyone and their mother this generation had Focus Punch and Brick Break. Advance was also the generation where the term bulky water originated, and Aggron certainly struggles against those. Not only does it struggle to hurt Suicune, Swampert, and Milotic, but it is also absolutely destroyed in return by their water stab moves, thanks to its horrendous special defense. Aggron also struggles to hurt common overused staples such as Skarmory, Celebi, Claydol, and Metagross, and is easily trapped by both Dugtrio and Magneton. It's outclassed both offensively and defensively by better overall Pokemon like Tyranitar and Metagross. In fact, even the rare Rhydon, a Pokemon that also has 2x4 weaknesses, has more of a niche in Advance than Aggron. Thus, our metal friend found itself in underuse, where Aggron had quite the powerful presence. With choice-banded normal types such as Kangaskhan and Fearow running amok, Aggron had many opportunities to switch in and do some significant damage. A Substitute plus Focus Punch set was its bread and butter, even tending to pack Ice Beam to handle Gligar that otherwise infinitely wall it. It also could eschew the Substitute for Earthquake and slap on a Choice Band for a more prediction-reliant but also more powerful set that could catch walls such as Blastoise and Vileplume off guard with its immediate power. It wasn't an overwhelming force since it was still slow, and it's not like its weaknesses didn't exist in underuse, but the environment was much more hospitable to its use, and thus it did rather well in the tier, if wielded by a smart trainer. Now on to Gen 4. Aggron was never seen in the 4th generation of Overuse until the release of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, one of the best games in the franchise by the way, where it received the monstrous head smash. Thanks to its rocket ability, it would take no recoil and thus could dish out absolutely horrifying damage without drawback. Now before we get ahead of ourselves, it didn't become an Overuse staple at all. Its negative traits are too crippling and too plentiful. However, it does have the tiniest of niches with Choice Band, since with Choice Band it utterly cleaves open even rock resistant Pokemon such as Gliscor, Jirachi, and Bronzong, while mauling the catch-all physical wall Skarmory as well. Adventurous players will find an inconsistent but fun and potentially game-opening option in Aggron. But other than that tiny niche, our steel-plated Barney made its home and underused once again in the 4th generation. It wasn't a frontline metagame representative, but it was certainly a solid choice. The Choice Band set was once again terrifying, switching in on Chansey and Clefable to cause havoc, although it did have a conundrum in choosing which nature to use. Jolly could help outspeed common walls such as Venusaur and Milotic, but Adamant's power was simply ridiculous. The prominence of Registeel meant head smash spamming wasn't always the easiest thing in the world, but one Earthquake and that Registeel would be in trouble. Aggron also lessened its need for prediction by occasionally reverting to a sub-punch set, but this time with a deadly new toy in Magnet Rise. This newly gained Earthquake immunity made it incredibly tough to counter for Pokemon such as Steelix and Donphan, and massively helped against Dugtrio too. Aggron also had the option of jetting past faster and frailer offensive teams with a Rock Polish set. It would very often sweep since these teams really relied on their speed, and outside of Blaziken's Vacuum Wave, most priority bounced off of it due to being physical. Even Kabutops' super effective Aqua Jet barely scratched Aggron's massive physical bulk. It didn't top the usage stats, but Aggron was an underrated choice for underuse in Gen 4, capable of dishing out massive damage and possibly even pulling off a sweep. Now on to the infamous Weather generation. Sadly, Aggron stood no chance in Overused here. It was weak to absolutely everything offensive in the metagame, and there was even a new terrific stop to head smash in the amazing Ferrothorn. And with that, Underuse's power creep resembling the previous generation's Overuse wasn't good either, and thus Aggron dropped to the new Rarely Used. There, however, it was pretty good. Its Choice Band set was one of the most feared Pokemon around, and it loved taking advantage of stabs from Choice Durant and Druddigon to throw out its trademark head smash. Other than that though, it was mostly the same story. Slow, weak to common attacks, but really powerful. And Rock Polish would occasionally blow away an offensive team, but it was difficult to pass up on its usual set that threatened to rip apart any stall team and was almost guaranteed to take at least one Pokemon out in any game. Alright, X and Y. Aggron got a huge boost in the 6th generation, being among the first wave of Mega Evolutions. Upon evolving, it would shed the rock typing that burdened it with so many weaknesses and became pure steel. It gained the amazing ability Filter, which further weakened super effective attacks, and its defense rose to titanic heights. Now with all of that said, it still wasn't quite overused material, since it didn't offer too much useful utility and tended to be overwhelmed with its lack of recovery, since it couldn't even hold leftovers. Thus it fell to underuse, where it found use on some stall teams that had Blissey, Alomomola, and Florges help it out in the recovery department thanks to their enormous wishes. To give an idea of how bulky it was, it could survive 2 Choice Band Earthquakes from Crocodile with minimal investment. It would often set up Stealth Rock since it matched up well against common defoggers and rapid spinners, but could also go for a sweep with a more specially defensive curse set. Now it did face stiff mega competition thanks to how effective Aerodactyl, Beedrill, and Sharpedo were, but you also may notice that it actually counters them really hard, and thus could fit as an anti-metagame choice or as part of the most unbreakable stall teams in underused. And as for regular Aggron had a small niche and never used, and technically rarely used, but didn't actually see much use despite what it could do. Sometimes certain Pokemon who are perfectly decent slip under the radar, and this is accurate for Aggron, at least in never used. Rarely used wasn't quite as kind an environment. In Gen 6 VGC, Aggron wasn't exactly a VGC mainstay, but was glimpsed a few times throughout the 2014 season. Despite Aggron receiving a Mega form, the Mega competition was pretty stiff, with Kangaskhan, Lucario, Mawile, the Charizards, and Gardevoir ruling the roost. And unfortunately, Aggron's attacking options are meager, and its low special defense is preyed upon easily, thus the spare use. And as for VGC placements, and I'm so sorry if I butcher your names, but Aggron was used by Nick Bailey, Jade Bachelor, and an unknown Carl at the the UK Nationals. Nikhil Gokul reached 7 with it at the South African Nationals as well. And it was also shockingly used in its regular form by Gincho to reach the top 16 of the Ganyu off, which is a qualifier in the Kyushu region. But the most notable placement, however, comes from Ashton Cox, aka Link Yoshimaru, to reach 13th at Worlds 2014, using regular Aggron at that. He utilized an off-the-cuff assault vest set that dominated Talonflame, could help control speed with Rock Tomb, and even survive Garchomp Earthquakes, thanks to the split damage. Ashton Cox said in his article, which if you want to read is linked in the description, said he basically brought Aggron to counter Talonflame, and he initially played it before the tournament as a joke, but ended up loving using it. Unconventional, yes, but he made it work on the highest stage to a degree. And now Gen 7. It took a while, but in Ultra Sun and Moon, Aggron found itself a niche on stall teams for its ability to keep several incredibly dangerous Pokemon in check, most notably renowned stall killer Mega Mawile. It also handled other brutally powerful threats that troubled most stall teams, such as Kartana and Tapu Bulu, while packing a meaty resistance to Choice Specs' Tapu Lele Psyshock, which is usually aimed at Chansey, and Aggron itself is also generally difficult to kill for anything one-on-one. Stab Earthquakes from offensive Garchomp and Landorus Therian, as well as Zygarde's Choice Band 1000 Arrows, just bounce right off of it, and with the right EVs, it could even survive Heatran's Magma Storm, powered up into Infernal Overdrive, before earthquaking it into dust and dispatching of a huge threat to the stall team. This ability to 1v1 most stall threats was what made Aggron good, even if it didn't come across one of the specific Pokemon it was trying to check. For recovery, Wish as well as Rest, alongside Heal Bell from its teammates, did just fine. And Aggron surely loved seeing opposing Tapu Bulu, who provide recovery for it. It's a very specific niche, but Aggron does have a place in overused stall. In underused, Mega Aggron fulfilled the same role as in the previous generation on very similar teams. Its titanic bulk, helping it stand up to powerful Z moves, was well appreciated by its teammates, and being able to actually hit back off its media attack stat was the icing on the cake. Meanwhile, regular Aggron fell all the way to PU this time around. There, however, its Choice Band set feasted on the weaker surroundings, and it could even function as a solid offensive Stealth Rock setter. And that's it. So how good was Aggron actually? Well, it was never a top tier overused threat, that's for sure. Despite rare forays into somewhat of a niche, it was for the most part strictly a lower tier Pokemon, but at least there it was solid. Never a dominant force, but almost always one of the more Pokemon who are at least decent in the metagame. And that Choice Band head smash is scary no matter what tier it's in. In VGC, it had very sparing uses one year and even made the unlikeliest of Worlds appearances, but overall its low speed, bad weaknesses, and limited damage output hindered it too badly for anything afterwards. Overall, Aggron was pretty much on the below average side, but it had its time and its place. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content. And as for the comments to vote for the next Pokemon next week, we're gonna do things a little bit different since a lot of you have been saying the comment section has too many voters in it. So to vote for the next Pokemon, go to the community tab on the False Swipe Gaming YouTube channel. There should be a thread there to vote for the Pokemon next week. So yeah, just comment what you want there and we'll see who wins. And as for the regular comments, I guess this time you can finally have a clear discussion on the Pokemon in the video, competitively speaking. Also, thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well. And follow my crew on these social media platforms, yada yada yada. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone. What's up, everyone? Looks like we got another legendary on our hands, and a box art one at that, because next up we have Rayquaza. This legendary dragon is the master of Hoenn's weather trio, rival of Deoxys as seen in the 7th movie, and of course, the mascot of Pokemon Emerald. This long green serpentine dragon is known to reside in the Earth's atmosphere, and how it manages to just fly all the time up there is beyond me, or what it even eats up there, but whatever, because that's a freaking cool habitat if you ask me. Who could forget that cutscene with Rayquaza, who descended on Sootopolis City to break up Groudon and Kyogre's titanic clash? Flash. And if you played Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I'm sure you all remember the post-game story called the Delta episode involving Rayquaza as well. Anyways, today we'll find out if competitively it soared as high as it did in the hearts and GBAs of young Pokemon trainers everywhere. So, how good was Rayquaza actually? And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. Imagine Gen 3 OU's Salamence, which is already a terrific Pokemon, take away its ability Intimidate and 5 base speed, then give it a massive boost to every other stat, the ability Airlock to bypass the effects of weather, and a bevy of amazing moves that Salamence would kill for. Most notably Extreme Speed, but also Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Overheat. This is Rayquaza, one of the most fearsome definitive threats in Ubers. Its flagship Choice Band set threatens to destroy absolutely everything, and it does so without even needing stab, since it hits everything in Ubers just as hard or harder with Earthquake or Hidden Power Bug as it would with Hidden Power Flying. Well, technically Hidden Power Flying has a 5 BP advantage on neutral targets like Groudon and Kyogre, but that is minimally useful, which cannot be said at all for the benefits of Hidden Power Ghost. The Lati twins, Mewtwo and Mew, Deoxys Defense, and especially Lugia, Rayquaza's one true counter, are hugely important targets, and Hidden Power Ghost gives the extra super effective kick needed to absolutely demolish them rather than allow them to hang on by a hair. In a metagame as powerful as Ubers, every percentage is important. Speaking of which, most priority moves are weak, hovering at 40 BP, but Rayquaza's Extreme Speed has the power of a more regular attack, and in conjunction with Rayquaza's immense power is an incredible cleaning tool against many of the faster Pokemon in the tier, especially the terrifying Deoxys attack, but also useful against the weakened Lati twins, Mewtwo, Select Berry Groudon, and Dragon Dance Rayquaza, because that's something else it can do effectively. With this set, instead of punching holes for its teammates, it actually becomes the teammate to capitalize on the punched holes. With incredible sweeping potential after a single boost, it cleaves through many offensive teams, and defensive teams don't love it after weathering an assault from something like Choice Band Metagross or Swords Dance Groudon. Finally, Rayquaza can use its equally excellent special attack along with its wide special move pool to attack from that side as well. It makes for a good Groudon lure since Ice Beam hits so hard and is useful for its ability to hit many things like a truck without the restriction of Choice Band via sheer coverage. Fire Blast also melts steel types even in rain thanks to Airlock. Speaking of which, Airlock is incredibly useful as it allows Rayquaza to use its huge bulk to shrug off powerful fire and water attacks without caring for their boosts in their respective weathers, such as Kyogre's Stab and Mewtwo's Fire Blast, and it completely nullifies the speed boosted dangerous Swift Swim sweepers like Ludicolo and Omastar, letting it check them and dish out offensive pain in the same vicious stroke. Overall, Rayquaza did it all. It was a viciously powerful wall breaker and kept many of the tier's biggest threats in check, and as such, it was one of the Uber tier's defining Pokemon. So much change for Rayquaza in the 4th generation. The physical special split allowed its Dragon Stab to run off its physical attack, thus meaning it could be boosted further by Dragon Dance, or Swords Dance since it learned that now too. Outrage was now 120 base power instead of its previous 90, and the move Draco Meteor came into existence, and so did Life Orb. But speaking of new things this generation also brought many things that Rayquaza didn't enjoy, with Stealth Rock being the chief among them. Choice Scarf also meant that it no longer outsped everything after a Dragon Dance. And of course, Garchomp also gave it competition with its incredible 102 speed and Stealth Rock resistance. However, Rayquaza was still to be feared. Its variety in sets made it incredibly tough to counter, and its bread and butter Dragon Dance variants were tough enough to handle since one would need a Scarfer over 95 speed to outpace it. And with how popular Scarf Palkia was, that wasn't a problem, and other Scarfers like Darkrai and Shaman Sky helped out too. However, those would quickly meet their end at the hands of a Swords Dance Extreme Speed. The normal resistant Scarf Dialga had no issue with this, but it was of course nothing but a victim for a Dragon Dance set. Teams with Scarf Kyogre had a Scarfer that could not check either variant, and to be truly safe against both, offensive teams needed a Choice Band Scizor, Choice Scarf Jirachi, or Choice Scarf Garchomp. Now, none of them could switch in without great risk, of course, and Garchomp especially had to remain healthy throughout the game, since it used its great bulk to take Extreme Speed as opposed to resisting normal. So if it dipped low enough then, one, it too could be picked off. And even if it did manage to finish Garchomp off, it'd simply be giving setup to Rayquaza's best friend, Lucario. In fact, the two starred on many dangerous offensive teams, setting up on each other's weaknesses beautifully, and slicing through the opposition with ease. And speaking of giving Rayquaza setup, Wobbuffet was another incredible partner for it. Against offensive teams, it could easily remove Choice Scarfers, or even help Rayquaza set up by switching into a Groudon Stealth Rock and Encoring. And even if Groudon attacked with an Earthquake, Groudon would be suffering a counter right after. Encore was also an incredible weapon against defensive teams. Switching into something like a Blissey or Giratina meant Rayquaza was going to have a free setup, as even if Blissey used Toxic or Giratina used Will-O-Wisp, Wobbuffet could use Safeguard to give Rayquaza a safe switch. Wobbuffet also famously destroyed Lugia, because after encoring it, it'd tickle it repeatedly. Then Choice Band Scizor would easily pursue Rayquaza's biggest menace. Now with all that being said, Rayquaza wasn't entirely a setup monster though. It was a terrifying mixed attacker, with its vicious Draco Meteor raising Groudon and Lugia trying to fend off the physical sets, which would in turn help a teammate like Lucario, Swords Dance Garchomp, or Bulk Up Dialga sweep later. This Draco Meteor lure was so tough to defend itself that some people even used a mixed Dragon Dance to lure its counters for its own sweep. So basically Draco Meteor early, Dragon Dance later. This Draco Meteor Rayquaza was a fantastic mid-game attacker because the setup sets for Rayquaza usually didn't want to throw their stab outs immediately, especially considering it was Outrage. But with Draco Meteor, this was not the case, and Rayquaza's 95 base speed let it get the jump on many of Uber's most popular faces, not just Groudon and Kyogre, but also Dialga and Giratina Origin. This set also gained notoriety as one of Uber's best leads. Now, anything with a strong attack and priority tends to be at least decent because of how important it is to limit the hazards that Deoxys speed can throw down as a lead, and Rayquaza does this with a bang. In the lead slot is sometimes eschewed Life Orb for Focus Sash, and while this made it a little less threatening to defensive teams, though still not exactly a walk in the park, the lead sets were usually meant to be offensive killers, so this let them fulfill that role with greater efficiency. Suddenly, it could stay in to pound Kyogre, Dialga, Palkia, Mewtwo, whatever. Sash also let it defeat the anti-metagame Sash Tyranitar lead, thanks to Airlock nullifying Sand. And speaking of Airlock, Pokemon such as Kingdra, Ludicolo, and Kabutops were much more common on Rain, and Rayquaza, of course, destroyed them. Overall, in the Ubers of Gen 4, Rayquaza was once again amazing. In VGC 2010, the first year that 2 restricted mons were allowed per team, Rayquaza was a pretty good pick, not just because of its amazing stats, because Airlock helped shut down the weather-based teams that were such a huge part of the metagame. Focus Sash let it take any Ice Beam or Dragon move to keep dishing the pain out, and Extreme Speed, of course, was invaluable as a finishing move in the face of priority like Abomasnow's Ice Shard or faster Pokemon like Scarf Kyogre. And in a game of inches like Pokemon can be, this could make or break a game, and it did struggle with the incredibly common Cresselia though. Now, admittedly, we couldn't find much in the way of placements on it, since 2010 VGC isn't exactly the most well-documented thing on the planet, but we do know that Rayquaza unfortunately did not appear at Worlds, even though Kyogre and Groudon were basically on every team. However, we did find that it was used by Bug Maniac Mark in the semifinals of the Seattle Regionals, and one of either Zerograde or Canis won the Phoenix Regional with it. And I say one of either because I can't tell who's who in this video, but it has their names. So, whoever it was, congratulations to you for winning the Phoenix Regionals with Rayquaza. And from its lack of high placements at Regionals finals, we can infer that Rayquaza probably wasn't as elite as the other Weather Trio members, but it did have a solid place in the metagame. Arceus being released in the 5th generation did not thrill Rayquaza. Here was a Lugia-esque counter in that it tanked, outran, and threatened to KO it, that also fit on a much wider variety of teams than the stall-oriented Lugia, and also wasn't Stealth Rock weak. The rise of the Extreme Killer set made Scarf Tyrakion quite popular, and Scarf Tyrakion checked both Rayquaza's setup variants easily. Zekrom and Reshiram, especially the former, provided fierce new Dragon-type competition. And finally, Ferrothorn was not quite a counter to Rayquaza, but it was a prime sponge for Dragon Stab, which could potentially compromise damage dealt. However, it was of course deathly afraid of Rayquaza's fire moves, even though usually Ferrothorn didn't mind unstabbed fire attacks that much, thanks to its prominent pairing with Kyogre. But as we know, thanks to Airlock, Rayquaza was having none of that. Sand teams rose with the Vicious Sweeper Excadrill, but Rayquaza halted it in its tracks and dished out a massive hit in return. But eventually, Rayquaza received the move V-Create via an event. This move of course had drawbacks, but then again so did Rayquaza's stabs, and the power provided was simply outrageous. It fit in right at home on Rayquaza's existing sets and allowed it to start running an excellent choice band set now that it had such an amazing move to spam. And thanks to Airlock, it would actually 2-hit KO Kyogre of all things. Suddenly, Ferrothorn and friends weren't so menacing anymore, and the jacked up extreme speed was appreciated in picking off weakened threats too. In Black and White 2, the appearance of the amazing Choice Scarf Genesect provided yet another Pokemon that stood in the way of Rayquaza's setup sets. Kyurem White appeared to provide even more amazing Dragon-type competition, and Lugia gained another incredible tool with Multiscale. But despite all of these new threats, even at its weakest, no one liked seeing Rayquaza in Team Preview. And you may have had Pokemon that hindered it from totally eviscerating you, but you were never truly safe against it either. The new Fairy type was a huge blow to Rayquaza, with Xerneas in particular drastically changing the landscape of Ubers. Thus, it took more of a back seat for most of XY. It was still an incredible wall breaker, it just tended to be overlooked, but it did see some use alongside Xerneas. However, the lack of permanent weather meant Airlock usually wasn't very useful other than maybe staving off a hit from Kyogre. But sand teams with Excadrill rose as the metagame looked for any way to keep Xerneas in check. Rayquaza, of course, responded to Excadrill's revenge-killing attempt with a brutal offensive assault, thus keeping the pace for its team. But, and I know you've all been waiting for this part of the video, with the release of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Rayquaza received the most monstrous Mega Evolution possible. Received from the Delta Mission post-game of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, not only did Rayquaza get the move Dragon Ascent, the flying version of Close Combat, to cut through the fairy-laden metagame with ease, it also boasted astronomical stats that made its regular counterpart look like an underused Pokemon. And as Mega Rayquaza, its new ability Delta Stream meant it had no flying related weaknesses. This meant it now had a rock neutrality, an electric resistance, and only a regular ice weakness. But the kicker is, unlike most Megas, it could also hold an item since it just needed Dragon Ascent to Mega Evolve, not a Mega Stone. In fact, it was so overwhelmingly powerful that it completely warped everything around it and was quickly banned even from Ubers, creating the tier known as Anything Goes, which basically means there are no rules, or should I say there are no restrictions. And to put things into perspective, Gen 1 Mewtwo used to be the gold standard for the scariest Pokemon ever, but Rayquaza was truly unbeatable. To some, Rayquaza stole that title from Mewtwo with ease. But unfortunately, regular Rayquaza didn't have it so easy afterwards. Mega Salamence was now in the tier, and it was incredibly tough competition, considering it was the clear number 2 in the tier behind Primal Groudon. However, Rayquaza's talents eventually popped up again, since sometimes teams wanted a different Mega Evolution, and its mixed and choice band sets did get a huge boost from Dragon Ascent, which was incredibly spammable, as Mega Mence's Aerolite boosted attacks had shown. In fact, regular Rayquaza sliced through common Pokemon like Veltal, Ho-Oh, and Primal Kyogre with ease, and Banded Extreme Speed was also nice as a safety measure against Xerneas, Dragon Dance Mega Mence, and Rock Polish Primal Groudon, since you could never have too many of those. Speaking of Primal Groudon, its additional fire typing, making it quadruple weak to water, usually went unnoticed since its ability just made water moves evaporate. That is, until it ran into Rayquaza, whose Airlock let it pummel away with Waterfall. Overall, Rayquaza was stunted a little more in this generation, but it's Rayquaza for Arceus' sake, and as such, it's always a threat to just about everything. And when 2016 was announced to allow 2 restricted Pokemon, the hype was enormous as everyone mentally prepared themselves for the momentous task of playing a meta where Mega Rayquaza is actually legal. And also, of course, having to deal with a metagame where the primals are everywhere. But anyways, let's begin by bringing it down to earth a little, or should I say from its home in the atmosphere. Mega Rayquaza was actually not as omnipresent as Xerneas or the primals, especially considering that the primals, even though they do take up a restricted slot, they do not take up a Mega slot, because they're things that are clearly Mega Evolutions or just named something else, whatever. Dragon Ascent's defense drops also made it easier to pick off, and its speed tier sometimes necessitated Protect to safely Mega Evolve, which could be taken advantage of. However, make no mistake, Rayquaza was an absolute terror and one of the defining Pokemon in the metagame. Its ability to mess with Desolate Land or Primordial Sea extended to Delta Stream, protecting its flying type teammates by weakening Rock, Ice, and Electric moves. Now, it wasn't the fastest in the tier, as Mega Salamence and Gengar saw to that, but it was one of the fastest, and was the fastest restricted Pokemon that wasn't a Mewtwo. And of course, its offenses were just breathtaking, especially with Life Orb and that base 180 attack. But it was still a powerhouse even with Focus Sash, which made it even more of a menace as it was less bothered by Dragon Ascent's drops and meant it was no longer completely dumpstered by Xerneas. Extreme Speed even had a +2 priority, letting it outpace Prankster and Talonflame's Brave Bird. Rayquaza could also go for a highly menacing Swords Dance set to truly punish any Protect shenanigans. And as you may have surmised, its usage was all over the place. Now, again, not as much as the Primals or Xerneas, but it was still quite prominent. And we'd be here until VGC 2020, listing all of its placements in 2016. So we've limited them to first place finishes. They are as follows, and I apologize in advance if I butcher any of your names, but there was Jamie Boyd at Liverpool and the Wakefield Regionals, Ricardo Apamea at the Pregonzio Regionals, Luis Conti at the Arham Regionals, Heriberto Pacaje at the Chile Regionals, Esteban Molina at the Costa Rica Regionals, Renzo Navarro at the Peru Regionals, BBT Liao at the Taiwan Regionals, Matthias Suchodolski at the Dortmund Regionals, Dane Zeman at the Fort Wayne Regionals, Javier Senorena at the Italian Nationals, Kotake Hideo at the Japan Nationals, Alfredo Prada at the Colombian Nationals, Israel Guandulin at the Mexico Nationals, and finally, at Worlds, we have for the Seniors Division, 8th place Brendan Zhang, 6th place Niels Dunlop, and 5th place Hongju Young. And for Masters Division, we have 8th place Barris Akos, 7th place Barry Anderson, 3rd place Marcus Statter, and Wolf Glick taking 1st place and the championship. What's interesting about this Worlds is that Brendan, Barris, Marcus, and Wolf in particular all used a new variant of the Rayquaza Kyogre core. The general Ray Ogre core had already existed up until this point, but this time these 4 players used it with then unknown Pokemon like Eject Button Hitmontop and Assault Vest Raichu. And with those mons paired up with Ray Ogre, this team came into its own and basically turned the metagame on its head. This particular team was meant to defeat the reigning strategies at the time, but most notably the dominant Xerneas Groudon core, and it will do this by helping Kyogre set up in Trick Room, while also managing to deal with dual primals via Rayquaza. So good stuff to the 4 players who used this team, as well as the other players who used Rayquaza, and of course on their wonderful performance at Worlds 2016. And if you thought Rayquaza was strong before, wait until its Dragon Ascent is powered up with Flynium Z. Its supersonic strike is simply astounding to behold, cleaving through just about anything not named Zygarde complete. However, where it truly shone was on a team with lead Focus Sash Excadrill Hyper Offense, often holding a Focus Sash itself. With this, it was not only an early game wall breaker, but also a check to just about anything, from Geomancy Xerneas to either Mega Mewtwo. With these teams' general lack of bulk, having this catch-all check to offensive threats was an Arceus send, especially since Rayquaza responded with offense itself rather than slowing down the breakneck pace at which those teams functioned to maintain momentum. Most offensive Pokemon that barely held on against an attack would likely fall to extreme speed, barring Lunala, but breaking Shadow Shield could be enough. With more and more incredible offensive Pokemon showing up, it was easy to forget about Rayquaza's wall-shattering capabilities, but make no mistake, it could still hang with the best of them, and was even crucial to the functioning of several great teams. And as for Gen 7 VGC, in the Sun Series and Moon Series of the 2019 season, even though 2 restricted mons are once again allowed, Mega Stones are banned, as well as the move Dragon Ascent, which means, no Mega Ray. However, regular Rayquaza still found some use with the overwhelming popularity of Kyogre and Groudon and their weather-abusing antics, at least in the Sun Series, because there appears to be no notable placements for the Moon Series. Similar to 2016, the Ray Ogre core, which involves Rayquaza often pairing with Kyogre to really shut down Groudon, made a return, and this core also struck fear in the heart of the ubiquitous Incineroar, who was also a great partner. Its standard set was a special attacking Assault Vest variant with amazing coverage and Icy Wind for speed control. However, with Rosalie Berry and Ironhead, Rayquaza could deal with Xerneas quite decently, even surviving a boosted Dazzling Gleam, thanks to Assault Vest. Using Rayquaza, Ricardo Apamea reached 11th at the Frankfurt Regionals. Javier Prada also used Rayquaza to reach 3rd at the Chile Special Event. And with the third part of VGC 2019, the Ultra Series coming up literally a few days after this video's release, Mega Rayquaza will be allowed once more and is sure to cause major rifts in the metagame as it did previously. And that's it. So how good was Rayquaza actually? Ever since its inception, it was always one of those terrifying Pokemon that made Ubers Ubers. Yep, like with most box art legendaries, or all box art legendaries. Yeah, Rayquaza's amazing. In fact, it was the box legend that you wanted to use when you played the tier. Only superlatives really describe how powerful it was, and this was seen on the big stage when its Mega Evolution, a Pokemon so insane that it had its own tier created in singles, won the biggest stage at Worlds, and became part of a really powerful and famous core. Now, by Uber standards, Rayquaza admittedly did have its ups and downs in viability across the generations, but make no mistake, Rayquaza's worst day is still one of the scariest things imaginable, and you don't want to imagine the carnage it causes on an average day, let alone a good one. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content. And there's no community tab vote this time because next week is the patron pick. But for the comments, I want to know, what do you think about competitive Rayquaza? How would you change it, etc, etc? Or did you think something like Mega Rayquaza is even necessary? Whatever it is, put it in the comments below. And as always, thank you to the patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well. And follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone. And now we have Gastrodon. The difference in its east and west forms is purely aesthetic, but how that form is chosen is extremely cool. In Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, they are divided by their respective sides of the formidable Mount Coronet that runs through the center of the region. Gastrodon was originally going to be in the Gen 3 games, but we're glad it was delayed, as this little tidbit contributes significantly to the personality of the Sinnoh games. Today we're going to explore Gastrodon's impact on the competitive scene. And so, we ask, how good was Gastrodon actually? And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. Gastrodon had some use in the OU metagame of its debut generation, with an immense HP stat, respectable defenses, resistant latent typing, and access to recover. It was a bulky Pokemon that could take several strong attacks. And unlike the main water ground type in the tier, Swampert, Gastrodon could stay healthy throughout the game. Another advantage over Swampert was its significantly lower weight. This meant, unlike Swampert, Gastrodon could take a surprise Grass Knot from Jirachi or Infernape, which could be game breaking. Now, Gastrodon didn't have Stealth Rock and wasn't too imposing on the offensive side, so it was generally not.
Got enough time to get a match in before I gotta go grab a laundry again. Joker. See how this goes. Oops. Put this over here. Damn, GG. Oh, thank you, thank you. I don't know how much. I think I have like enough time for one more match before my laundry goes off. That's where I was. I have laundry downstairs at like a laundromat type thing because I live at a condo. All right. Thank you though. You're good too. You're good as well. I know that that was a rough start, but I believe in your ability to adapt. Oh, fudge. Really? Too long. That's not good. Out slow. Ah, fuck. GG. Okay, I think that should give me enough time to go get laundry. See what the timer says. Yeah, no, 36 seconds. I'll be back. Back to the intermission screen.
not seen too often, but on the few occasions it was used, it showed how effective its traits were if used correctly. It was an effective curse sweeper, as thanks to its ability, Sticky Hold, it was immune to Trick, which was a common method of neutering other bulky setup sweepers. Being immune to Clefable's knockoff made it difficult to handle for defensive teams, especially since Gastrodon was often paired with Magnezone to remove Skarmory. Gastrodon was great alongside trapping in general, as Dugtrio effectively removed irritating Breloom, and often Magnezone and Dugtrio paired up to fully support an endgame Gastrodon sweep. Well, until Dugtrio was banned, but Cursed Gastrodon remained a threat just alongside Magnezone. It wasn't beholden to its curse set though. It could act as a generally tough to break bulky water, filling a crucial defense role in more defensive teams. Its main competition was Milotic, and Gastrodon's quadruple grass weakness held it back in comparison to the big fish, as it meant it had a more difficult time countering offensive Heatran. However, Gastrodon stonewalled many Pokemon Milotic couldn't hope to answer, mainly electric types. It sat on offensive Zapdos and Rotom, as Sticky Hold prevented the latter from tricking it. Gastrodon's resistance to Stealth Rock and immunity to Sandstorm, meaning that it gained passive recovery in Sandstorm, was a notable advantage, as it made it difficult to wear down. Even if it was double switched on with Stealth Rock up in Sand, it wouldn't have lost any health at all, whereas Milotic would lose 12.5% that it wouldn't get back without using a turn on recover. Finally, its rock resistance made it a great counter to Dragon Dance Tyranitar, and meant it could stave off Choice Band Stone Edges as well. Gastrodon was niche and not seen too often, but nobody would dispute its viability in OU. It was solid and saw some significant tournament success. Of course, it wasn't a true OU Pokemon. However, weirdly enough, it wasn't as good in UU as it was in OU. Without Sandstorm and strong electric and rock moves flying around, Milotic was generally a superior choice, especially since it could shrug off Moltres' HP grasses. Gastrodon wasn't a bad Pokemon at all, just generally outdone and hard to fit on teams that wouldn't be better off with another Pokemon. As such, it dropped to NU, and it had trouble fitting in there as well. Again, it wasn't bad, just tough to fit. It still had competition with another water type, this time Slowking, who once again was generally preferred for its ability to handle HP grass from a prominent tier fire type. The fire type being Charizard this time around, as well as Slowking's ice and psychic resist that let it answer Jinx. Gastrodon also struggled to counter the tier's electrics, Manectric, and Magneton, because they had no reason to run any hidden power other than grass, and its lightweight wouldn't save it against Raichu's Grass Knot after a nasty plot either. Gastrodon wasn't really a reliable counter to much. It was generally fairly annoying to kill, but not particularly. Not least because it couldn't muster much offense in return, and because grass moves were absolutely everywhere. It did counter Haunter quite well, but that wasn't enough to land it on most teams. In theory, it wasn't a bad Pokemon on stallish teams, because Sticky Hold would ruin any trick or switcheroo attempts and could spread Toxic effectively, but even then it was niche. Overall, Gastrodon wasn't a bad Pokemon in NU, just like it wasn't bad in UU. It was just not as easy to slot on a team as other Pokemon. Funnily enough, even though it was NU, its best niche was in OU. Definitely not a bad debut generation though. Seeing use, however scattered, in all three of Gen 4's sub-Ubers above Little Cup tiers, and being regarded as having useful traits in all of them, was a lot better than many Pokemon ever got. Black and White's Dream World gave Gastrodon one of the greatest buffs ever, Storm Drain, which was previously useless in singles, but now gave it a water immunity, and if it was hit by a water move, it would even gain a special attack boost. This came at an incredible time, as Gen 5 was, of course, overrun by rain. Gastrodon didn't care that Specs Politoed's Hydro Pump was stronger than Specs Latios' Draco Meteor, or that Life Orb Starmie Hydro Pump had become even more devastatingly powerful. It would take approximately 0% from these attacks all the same. In addition, it was an incredible counter to the devastating Thundurus, who ripped through most of the metagame, but not Gastrodon. It countered it fully. Gastrodon was generally a great counter to other special attackers on rain, and it may not have been a counter to these Pokemon, but it was able to shrug off hits from Latios and Tornadus, crippling them with Toxic. Gastrodon wasn't just a counter to rain though. Against Sand, it completely sat on the irritating Rotom Wash, being immune to both Volt Switch and Hydro Pump, and plenty of Sand used Thundurus as well. Gastrodon made up the excellent anti-weather sweeper of itself, Skarmory, and specially defensive Heatran. They had tremendous defensive synergy together, countering huge swaths of the metagame's most dangerous threats and allowing defensive teams to keep up. Sand teams loved the core, allowing them to combat rain easily, and the three were so solid that they even featured on several weatherless defensive teams, being used as an example of how one didn't necessarily need to use weather to win. The trio spread passive damage with ease, as Gastrodon made the most out of another Gen 5 gift, Scald. Gastrodon continued its excellence even after Thundurus's ban, as being able to so completely self Rotom was invaluable, and it saw some use on Rain Stall as well, although its home was an anti-rain anchor on sand. Some players experimented with Gastrodon's offensive capabilities too. If it had special attack investment and received the Storm Drain boost from one of the many water moves flying around, it hit quite hard, leading some players to make use of Choice Specs and Life Orb sets on Rain, and Deoxys Defense hyper-offensive teams. Even Ferrothorn didn't want to switch into its Earth power. Then Black and White 2 came around, and so did new rain threats. In Black and White 1, Gastrodon used special defense, but now with the addition of Keldeo, it had to use physical defense, so it wasn't destroyed by Secret Sword. With physical defense, it was a solid check to Keldeo, albeit not a perfect counter, but given how generally difficult Keldeo was to deal with, it was one of the best answers available, especially since it wasn't at all vulnerable to Tyranitar's pursuit, and couldn't be overwhelmed by the sheer power of Specs, Hydro, and Rain. Gastrodon's new physical defense investment was nice in other ways too. It wasn't a hard counter or anything, but it was able to take hits from monsters like Terrakion, Garchomp, Landorus T, and Mamoswine, easing the burden on its teammates against 3 tough-to-answer threats. Gastrodon's lack of special defense meant it was no longer able to shrug off Latios's Draco Meteor or Hurricane from Tornadus, both Therian and regular. But it also was still naturally tanky enough to handle other relevant threats. Thundurus Therian could just about never afford to run Nasty Plot and Focus Blast on the same set, and without both, it had no hope of breaking through Gastrodon, while Alakazam struggled to beat it as well. Gastrodon's usage fluctuated throughout Black and White 2, as it competed with other bulky waters like Jellicent and the Slow Twins, but it was always there, ready to stop a Rotom Wash in its tracks or give a Rain team a hard time. Gastrodon was an incredibly important piece of Gen 5 OU. And we're not done with Gastrodon in Gen 5 singles just yet though, because it was also amazing in Ubers. Remember how it was now immune to water? Well, turns out that applied even to King Kyogre, and Gastrodon established itself as one of the more reliable Kyogre counters in the tier, taking a whopping 0% from even a fully powered Choice Specs Water Spout. It was also immune to Thunder and not particularly afraid of Ice Beam, making it one of the best responses to the single scariest Pokemon in the game. It didn't just answer Kyogre though.
Alright. Empty hand. Let's get some music. There we go. Oh, thanks. I'm probably super late to the Have a Great stream. But I've seen it. Oh, we got Not Jonas here. Got a stick like white on rice. Oh, goodbye, Not Jonas. GG. That was a weird one. That wasn't cool. I just didn't wait for me. cat. I'll be right back. It got out. back with a cat. This cat was interfering with our plans to get our other cat. And so he's being distracted. I say hello to Shide, his fat self. Sound just like Toon Link. What, you're not interested in watching Smash? It's pretty high energy. Oh, you said you guys are scrubs. What, it might just be warming up. I mean, they could just be pressing buttons. But aren't we all? See, look, you did a parry. Look at that. He's at 69.9% damage. And he got the kill. That's gotta count for something. Oh, no more 69.9%. Are you surprised? I didn't think so. You almost got him. Look at him. You tired of watching this? Like, shut up and pet me. Ooh, that was a big counter. It's okay. Just chill. Just do a challenge glitch. Good B-Day. Just gotta trust us, okay? We're doing everything we can. You don't like being held. It's the main one, huh? Like, fuck, I don't give a shit if Alright, GG's, guys. Good time to end stream. May or may not be back because I got laundry and stuff.